What's good, y'all? So in this video, we're going to be breaking down the Warriors wing rotation. For those of y'all who aren't familiar with the term wing, in basketball, a wing refers to a player who typically plays on a perimeter, usually at the small forward and shooting guard positions. These players are often versatile and can perform various roles, including shooting from the outside, driving to the basket, and strong perimeter defense. The size of a wing in today's NBA typically ranges anywhere from 6'5" to 6'8". Historically, the NBA is a wing-driven league, with the team that hangs the championship banner at the end of the season usually being decided by health, defense, and elite wing play. The 2024 champs, the Boston Celtics, for example, their team is built around two elite wings with a championship defense behind them. So quality wing production is essential to a team's championship aspirations. Now with all that being said, let's break down the Warriors wing rotation for next season. Coming in at 6'7", 225 pounds, with a 6'11" wingspan, the player I believe is the biggest X factor in the Warriors' success next season, Jonathan Kaminga. JK is probably the most intriguing player on the roster due to his potential, and how transformative he could be for this Warriors team if he takes a leap this season. Kaminga is viewed as the Warriors' highest upside young player, and rightfully so. JK has to be in the conversation for most athletic players in the league, and at 6'7", he plays a premium position that makes him extremely valuable not just to the Warriors, but around the league as well. If you ask Kaminga, he'd tell you he's a small forward, but not according to Steve Kerr. Steve doesn't see JK as a wing, but sees him more as a power forward due to his limited but still developing perimeter skills, such as outside shooting, ball handling, on-ball defense, and quick decision-making. Kerr's lack of trust in JK's ability to perform these tasks is what's led to his inconsistent playing time up to this point, and why Kerr views him as a power forward and not a wing. And while I have faith in JK's long-term outlook as a wing player, I can see where Kerr's coming from with some aspects of his evaluation. While Kaminga's upside is intriguing, he does have a lot to improve on coming into year 4 if the Warriors want any chance of making a deep playoff run. So let's dive into what JK needs to improve on the most, starting with his three-point shooting. Last season, JK shot 32% from 3 on 2.2 attempts per game. He's attempted 463s over his first 3 years, and he's made them at a 34% clip. Alright, let's take a look at Kaminga's shot chart. Shout out B-Ball Index, by the way. As you can see, JK was cash from the left corner 3, shooting 44.5%, but he was subpar from every other spot behind the arc, averaging out towards 32% from 3. Ideally, I would like to see JK up his three-point shooting from 32% up to around 36%, and get his attempts up from 2.2 up to at least 5.5 a game. If he can hit these benchmarks, I think he goes up a tier as an offensive player, and I'm confident he can do it. He improved his free throw shooting from 68% his rookie year to 75% last season. This gives me confidence there's room for improvement with his three-point shooting as well. Judging from his off-season training videos, his jumper looks less robotic, more fluid, and more compact. Alright, let's get to the other aspects of his game he needs to improve on. His defense, and more specifically his on-ball defense, isn't where it needs to be. Kaminga has all the tools in the world to be an elite defensive stopper. He has the size, length, strength, and lateral quickness to theoretically match up with any perimeter player in the league. And yet, more often than not, he struggles to defend. And oddly enough, I think he used to be a better on-ball defender as a rookie than he is now. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know if it's a regression, but what I do know is the defensive fundamentals can use some work. Most of the time, his defensive stance is way too upright. When he's D'ing up, he's not getting deep enough into that defensive stance to protect against a blow-by. He seems content relying on his athleticism to make up the difference when he's getting beat off the dribble, versus getting into a proper defensive stance to prevent the blow-by in the first place. His over-reliance on his athleticism to get back into play when he's beat leads to unnecessary fouls. Another thing the Warriors have been looking for him to improve on is leveraging his strength and athleticism to do more of the dirty work defensively. Things like boxing out, pursuing out-of-area rebounds. Big man responsibilities don't come natural to him, which could be tough at times for a Warriors team that runs small ball lineups probably more than any other team in the league, which leaves JK more often than not one of the biggest players on the court for the Warriors. Steve Kerr has referenced on more than one occasion that he views Shawn Marion as someone that JK can model his game after. Both similar builds, both athletic, but Shawn Marion was a great rebounder. Not because Marion had any type of physical advantage over JK, but because he had the willingness and the desire to rebound. Shawn Marion was definitely the more instinctual defender and rebounding presence, which is something the Warriors hope to see JK tap more into considering his physical gifts. With his size and athleticism, there's no reason JK can't average 8 rebounds a game. Alright, now let's get into what Kaminga does well, and what he brings to the team that no one else on the roster can replicate. Like I said earlier, Kaminga has to be a top 5 athlete in the league. On a Warriors team that outside of him and TJD has very little athleticism. He's a force when he gets downhill, and when he gets a full head of steam with a runaway in front of him, he's hard to stop. By the time the defense is coming over to rotate, Kaminga's already elevated and on top of the rim before the defender can even contest. He gets to the rim easier than anyone else on the roster, and when he does get there, he's either drawing a foul or he's finishing at a 75% clip. The Warriors lack players that can provide rim pressure. It's a glaring weakness in the roster construction. Steph and Kaminga are literally the only players on our roster that can get to the rim with any semblance of regularity. And with Steph getting into his late 30s, he's been venturing in the paint less and less these past few seasons, rightfully so, which puts the burden more on JK. But it's not just Kaminga's ability to get to the rim that's impressive. His rapidly developing mid-range game is starting to be a major weapon for him. It's not DeMar DeRozan level, but his turnaround midi is starting to look like a viable option in the offense. Kaminga punishes size mismatches. If teams dare put a smaller defender on him, he's backing him down into the paint and overpowering him for a bucket. Kaminga's due for an extension this offseason, and it's 100 M's on the line, so you know he's getting his work in. I think it pays off. I think he's a 20-point per game scorer next season. Next up, let's talk about Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins is coming off a disappointing season to be sure, but I got a feeling Wiggins is about to turn up next season. He's easily the Warriors' best option as a 3-and-D wing, and their go-to defender against those premier matchups. If we're playing the Mavs, he's locking up Luka. If we're playing OKC, he's locking up Shea. If we're playing the Lakers, he's locking up LeBron. Defensively, he's versatile enough to defend quicker guards like Ja and bigger wings like Tatum. And on the other end, he can give you 16 to 18 points per game within the flow of the offense. Wiggins is essential to what the Warriors are trying to do, and they're going to need him at the top of his game. Next up is the forgotten man, Moody. Now, Moody's probably the toughest player to project for next season. He's been buried on the bench the first 3 seasons of his career, despite showing positive signs every time he's been given an opportunity. Is this the year Moody finally breaks through? Coming in at 6'5" with a 7'1" wingspan, Moody's one of the longest players on the team. Pause. Fun fact, Moody and Draymond Green have the exact same height and wingspan. Now, the reason I have Moody categorized as a wing instead of a guard is that the Warriors utilize him more as a wing. According to the data, he's actually played more minutes at small forward than he has at shooting guard in his career. His insane wingspan more than makes up for any height disadvantage he may have guarding bigger wings. Moody's the second closest thing the Warriors have to a 3-and-D wing behind Wiggins. I remember a game last season against the Knicks where he had Jalen Brunson in hell. He couldn't score on him. Like, he was trying to get screens all game to get Moody off him. He had him in shackles. Moody's improved at conceding distance as a defender to protect against a blow-by, while also realizing how much space he can afford to give up and utilizing his wingspan and closer distance for a quality contest. With the departure of Klay, under normal circumstances, I would say Moody deserves anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes per game. But the Warriors did add Anthony Melton and Buddy Hield, who will inevitably eat up some of those available minutes. So minutes are going to be hard to come by again for Moody. But the good news is he's a hardworking kid, and I'm sure he improved his offseason. And if he has improved even marginally, with his energy and hustle he provides, on top of his length defensively, his ability to knock down shots, it's going to be hard to keep him off the court. Next up, we got GP2. I feel like it's not much that needs to be said. We all know what GP2 brings to the table. He's still one of our best on-ball defenders. When healthy, he might be our best one, but unfortunately that's a problem. He's rarely healthy, but the Warriors have done a great job shoring up the roster. Now they got Anthony Melton and Kyle Anderson, his unavailability doesn't really hurt them as much. In fact, Melton and slow-mo actually makes him expendable. Between the two of them, they can more than cover for everything GP2 brings to the table. I'm gonna be honest, I don't expect GP2 to finish the season on the roster. I think he's gonna be used as salary filler for any trade the Warriors make, perhaps for Lowry. But in the meantime, to start the season, it's great having GP2 around. He's a great vet, he's a great culture guy, he's great for the vibes, and he does provide depth. He's still a good player, but I wouldn't count on him making it to the end of the season as a Warrior. Rounding out the rest of the Warriors' wings, we got Guy Santos and Lindy Waters. They're expected to be the 13th and 14th guys, which means they won't play much. But what I do like about Guy and Lindy is that they stay ready, and when called upon, they can give you something. They're definitely not scrubs. They have legit NBA skills. He provides energy, hustle, 3-point shooting, transition offense. Waters is a 6'6" wing that's a pure shooter off the bench. He can also defend a little bit. I look at him as Damian Lee, but slightly more athletic and with a more pure shot. If you got him or Damian Lee wide open in the corner, I'm taking Lindy Waters all day. And I look at Guy as Juan Toscano Anderson, but a little more talented. He's a better shooter, he's better at finishing at the rim, and he's a little bigger. But he still brings all that hustle and energy that Juan T brings. Hey, shout out to Juan T, by the way. Hopefully he can get back in the league soon. Alright, so as for the question, who starts? Now, I know I've been projecting Kaminga to come off the bench in my previous depth charts due to his clunky fit offensively next to a Draymond TJD frontcourt. But the more I think about it, I think Kaminga should start no matter what. This is year 4 for him, and he's now your unquestioned second option with Klay Thompson gone. It's at that point where either you start him or you trade him. And if you're not going to trade him, which I don't think they will, then you need to start him so you can instill that faith in him and let him know you're our guy. Besides, he plays better as a starter anyway. So if that's the way to get the best out of him, then keep him in the starting lineup. Now, I also think you got to start Wiggins too, because he's your best 3-and-D player, which leaves Draymond starting at center and TJD off the bench. We'll dive into that aspect of the lineup when I break down the big rotation. But yeah, man, in conclusion, I think you got to start Kaminga and Wiggins, and you figure everything else out from there. If it's a clunky fit, oh well, it's time to start building around Kaminga's strengths, because he's the key to the team reaching that next level. You need to empower him or trade him. Anyways, that's all I got for y'all. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. If I entertained you or you learned something new, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. I'll holler at you on the next one. Peace.